In a small sun-drenched village nestled beside the great river lived a farmer named Kwasi. Kwasi was a good man, known for his strong back and his gentle spirit. He worked his small plot of land from dawn to dusk, coaxing life from the soil. But despite his tireless efforts, his harvests were always modest, just enough to feed his family and trade for their basic needs. He often looked at the richer farmers' overflowing barns with a sigh, wishing for just a little more prosperity. One sweltering afternoon, as Kwasi tilled a new patch of earth, his hoe struck something unusual. It wasn't a rock nor a root. Brushing away the soil, he found it, a seed. But this was no ordinary seed. It pulsed with a soft golden light, humming with an energy he could almost feel in his fingertips. It was warm to the touch and seemed to glow with an inner magic. Kwasi had never seen anything like it. A sense of awe washed over him. He knew deep in his heart that this was a gift from the ancestors, a blessing from the spirits of the land. He carefully planted the magical seed in the center of his small field, watering it with reverence and hope. The next morning, Kwasi awoke to an astonishing sight. Where he had planted the tiny seed, a magnificent plant now stood, laden with the largest, most succulent yams he had ever seen. Each yam glowed faintly, mirroring the seed's magic. His heart swelled with joy and gratitude. He harvested the yams, enough to fill his small barn to bursting. True to his good nature, Kwasi shared his bounty with his family and a few close neighbors who marveled at the size and sweetness of the yams. But as he watched their delight, a new thought began to sprout in his mind, insidious and tempting. If one seed can do this, he mused, what if I had more? He carefully replanted a few of the magical yams, hoping for an even greater harvest. And indeed, the next day his field was once again overflowing. This time, however, Kwasi didn't share as freely. He told himself he needed to save, to build a better future for his family. He began to hoard, piling the glowing yams higher and higher in his barn, his eyes gleaming with a new kind of satisfaction. The magical seed continued to produce day after day, week after week. Kwasi's barn became a mountain of glowing yams. He was the richest farmer in the village, yet he felt a strange emptiness. He stopped visiting the market, fearing others would ask for his secret. He grew suspicious of his neighbors, imagining they coveted his wealth. The joy he once felt was replaced by a gnawing anxiety, the fear of losing what he had, and the relentless desire for more. His once kind eyes now held a haunted look. He barely slept, constantly checking his barn, replanting more and more seeds, even though he had far more than he could ever use. The village elders, noticing his change, tried to speak with him. Kwasi, they advised, true wealth lies not in what you possess, but in what you share. The spirits bless those who give. But Kwasi, blinded by his growing obsession, merely scoffed. They are jealous, he thought. They do not understand true prosperity. He ignored their wisdom, and as his greed grew, a subtle change began to occur. The glowing yams, once so vibrant, seemed to lose a fraction of their luster. The plants, though still abundant, didn't quite possess the same vigor they once had. But Kwasi, consumed by his hunger for more, failed to notice these subtle warnings. One morning, Kwasi awoke to a foul stench emanating from his barn. Rushing inside, his heart sank. The yams, once his pride and joy, were rotting. Piles of them had turned to mush, attracting swarms of insects and rodents. The magical glow that once brightened his life had faded completely, replaced by a sickly greenish hue. The abundance he had so desperately hoarded was now a decaying mess. He ran to his fields, only to find a similar devastation. The once magnificent plants were withered and brown, their leaves crumbling to dust. The soil itself seemed barren, cracked and lifeless. The magical seed which had promised so much had turned against him. Its power, meant for sharing and community, had been corrupted by his selfish desire. Kwasi fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. He finally understood the elders' words, the true nature of the magical seed. It wasn't meant to make one man rich beyond measure, but to bring prosperity to the entire community through generosity. His greed had not only destroyed his wealth, but also withered his spirit and isolated him from his people. Humbled and heartbroken, Kwasi sought out the village elders. He confessed his folly, his insatiable hunger, and the terrible price he had paid. The elders listened with compassion. "Kwasi," they said, "the spirits teach us many lessons. Sometimes the greatest gifts come with the greatest responsibilities. The magical seed was a test, and you have learned its truth." From that day forward, Kwasi dedicated his life to helping others. He worked tirelessly to restore the barren land, not for his own gain, but for the good of the village. He shared his knowledge, his strength, and his newfound wisdom. Though the magical seed never returned, the village slowly prospered, not through individual hoarding, but through collective effort and the spirit of community. Kwasi, though no longer rich in yams, became rich in spirit, respect, and the love of his people.